Hi, my name is Judy Clement. I'm a writer and illustrator based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome to my tutorial series. Today we're making a mandala. Let's start by going over the materials you'll need. First, the paper. I love Bristol paper for working with pencil and ink. This is Canson's XL series. I think the paper is geared towards students, so it's inexpensive, but I love it. The paper in these recycled tablets is two-sided with a very smooth finish on one side and a little texture on the other. You can play with them to see which side works best for you. Next, you'll need a pencil and an eraser. I use a cheap No. 4 pencil because the harder leads don't smear as much and they're easy to erase once we add ink. To ink my mandalas, I use micron pens. They're a little expensive, but they come in different thicknesses and they're archival, so if you decide to frame and hang one of your masterpieces, it won't fade over time. I also sometimes use a thicker marker like this Tombow brush pen for shading or coloring in backgrounds. We'll also need a compass, a protractor, and a straight edge. All right, let's make a mandala. The first thing we need to do is find center. I have an 8-inch square piece of paper here, so I'm going to line up my ruler edge to edge, put a mark at 4 inches, and draw that line. Then we'll flip the paper and do it all again to create a center point. Now it's time for us to create the circles of our mandala. There are a lot of ways to do that. I'm going to show you a more precise method that will make it easier if you want to create exactly the same mandala that I'm making. What we're going to do is take our ruler and draw some tick marks where we want our circles to be. I'm drawing a mark at 1/2 inch, at 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.5, 3, and 3.5. I'll put those measurements in the notes in case you missed them. Now we'll use our compass, pressing the point into the center that we located like rock stars. I like to really press it in to create a little dent. That way I can always refine center if I need to. Now we just adjust the compass to draw circles at each of our tick marks. Okay, protractor time. We're going to set our protractor along our horizontal center guide so that 90 degrees is aligned with our vertical guide. You can draw guidelines wherever you want to. Generally, the more guidelines you have, the more exact and detailed you can make your mandala. For this mandala, we're going to divide each section into thirds, so we'll make little tick marks at 30, 60, 120, and 150 degrees. Now we use our ruler to draw a line that intersects each of our tick marks with our center point. Time to start patterning. I'm going to switch to a pen now, which will be easier for you to see. If you're uncomfortable drawing with pen, you can stick with a pencil and then ink over your pencil after you're finished drawing. I usually start at the center and work my way out, so I'm just going to freehand a little circle around the center. Then I'm going to use these sections created by our guidelines to create flower petals. Later, we're going to erase the pencil lines, so any lines that are part of your design, you'll want to go ahead and ink right on top of them. At this point, it's just patterning for each new circle. Use the guidelines to help you create nice, even patterns. In this circle, I'm drawing 3 of these little pointed petals in each section. By using the guidelines and counting off patterns within a section, I'll get a nice, symmetric mandala. And here's a great thing. You'll notice that my patterns aren't perfect. Sometimes a petal is too fat or too skinny, but I just keep going. In the end, after I've added details, the mistakes won't be visible. I've created enough mandalas to know that they're a bit magical that way. Part of making a mandala is learning to trust the process. On this next circle, I'm going to draw some bigger, fatter petals. I love working with these because there are so many things you can do with them. I'll show you a few of them in the course of this tutorial. You'll notice I am again using the guidelines to help me place the petals, starting at the corner of a section and drawing a slightly rounded line to the opposite corner. Again, any lines that you want to keep as part of your design, you'll need to ink over them. Okay, let's do a really easy pattern in the next circle. I'm aiming for 5 little petals per section. And now some more of the fat petals. This time I'm starting at the lower corner of a section and drawing a slightly rounded diagonal line to the upper center. Then from there down to the lower right corner. One of my favorite things to do with this pattern is to draw overlapping petals. Here, I'll start at lower center and draw my diagonal line to the upper corner. This creates a sort of spirograph pattern I really like. Next, this little band. I often just color these in to add depth to a mandala, but this time I'm going to draw in tiny petals. Okay, time for the outside circle. I'm going to hang on to my flower theme here and draw little stamens between these outer petals. Now I'm just going to draw in this last circle before I erase all the pencil marks. Another great thing about the micron pens is that you can erase right on top of them, and as long as they're dry, which they do almost instantly, they won't smear. Okay, now we've got this great little mandala outline. The next part is my favorite part, detailing. Again, I start at the center and work my way out. I'm just going to add little details to each of my patterns. So you can see I'm just adding details one at a time, building off whatever I did before. In this circle, I'm going to start by drawing a line down the center of each of these petals. Then, because we've got a kind of organic thing going on, I think I'll turn each of these petals into a leaf. I find sometimes it's easier to go all the way around the circle, filling in lines one way, then around again, filling in the other half of each of the leaves. Now, just to add some visual interest, I'm going to divide each of these white triangles. Okay, last circle. I'm going to do one of my favorite patterns, drawing little half flowers in each of these petals. First, I'll outline the petals just like we did earlier. Then draw each flower's center. And now their petals. Okay, we could stop here. This is a really pretty little mandala, but my last step is to go back through and add depth to the design by shading and coloring in backgrounds. So again, starting at the center and working my way out. One way to add depth without blacking something out completely is to sort of hatch in sections with tight little lines like this. Now I'm going to stop talking and speed the video up as I go through my mandala, adding details and depth, all the while looking for where something needs to be darkened or detailed for overall balance. Okay, so I thought I was done, but then it seemed like the center needed a little more going on. I think you could work endlessly on a mandala, constantly adding and building. At some point, you'll decide it's done enough, which is what I'm doing now. You're welcome. There's a link in the notes where you can go to download some free pattern practice sheets, a partially completed mandala you can finish, and a finished one that you can color. Thanks for playing with me.